What's up, Sooner fans? I'm Parker Thune. This is the Oklahoma Drill, and we're a couple days removed from what was a monumental spring game in Norman, Oklahoma. 75,000 plus fans on hand to witness the first public exhibition of the Brent Venables era. Legends aplenty were on hand. Coach Venables himself enraptured the crowd. Jeff Lebby's offense was moving with ridiculous tempo, and of course, Baker Mayfield was enshrined in Heisman Park in commemoration of his 2017 Heisman Trophy. So that's the big picture. Let's hone in on some of the individual standouts from Saturday's contest. Around this time last week, I released a video that had 5 offensive players and 5 defensive players that I was particularly looking forward to watching in the spring game. So let's essentially take the same format here. 5 offensive standouts, 5 defensive standouts. Let's start on the offensive side with the guy that many thought was the MVP of Saturday's game, Jovantae Barnes, who had 2 touchdowns for the Red Team. Barnes, of course, mid-year enrollee, true freshman, former 4-star prospect out of the Las Vegas area. What struck me most about his performance was that he really didn't have much space to operate outside the tackles. Most of the yardage that he accrued came when he was going straight downhill because, in essence, he had to, and that was a credit to the way that this Oklahoma defense played on Saturday. Now, Barnes is a guy that has home run speed. You can't let a guy like that bounce it outside. And so what was most impressive about his performance, in my eyes, on Saturday was the fact that he still managed a moderately productive game, 17 carries, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns, led all rushers, despite the fact that this defense wasn't really letting him get outside the tackles. He had to go straight downhill, he had to initiate contact, and he had to get those yards the hard way. I'm a huge fan of his game. I think he's going to head into the 2022 season pushing Eric Gray for starting duty. And as I've said before, I expect he'll have the kind of impact for this team in 2022 that Trey Sermon did as a true freshman in 2017. And Barnes wasn't the only running back that stood out. Tawee Walker, the junior college transfer walk-on, had an outstanding day as well. 13 carries, 55 yards, rushed for a touchdown. And though he did lose a fumble, I was really impressed with what I saw from Walker, who is a childhood friend of Ramondre Stevenson. And you can see a certain Stevenson-esque flavor in the way that he runs and the way that he plays the game. He's extremely balanced, he's bouncy, he goes straight downhill, and he's always the low man. Walker is not your average run-of-the-mill walk-on, and I believe at this point he may have the inside track to be the number 3 back come the start of the 2022 season behind Eric Gray and Jovantae Barnes, and if that's the case, there's going to be a role for him in this Oklahoma offense. We've kind of become conditioned to expect excellence from Marvin Mims, who's one of the most dynamic wideouts in the country, but he was excellent on Saturday and deserves his due. In fact, I think he might have even been a little bit better, played a little bit better than his stat sheet would indicate. Obviously, he had the 33-yard touchdown towards the end of the first quarter of that game, and I believe heading into 2022, there's little question he's going to be the number 1 option in this passing attack for Dillon Gabriel. And how about the true freshman out of the state of Florida, Jayden Gibson? He saw Mims break away for that long touchdown and said, "I'll see you and raise you." Went 95 yards to the house late in the third quarter on a pass from Micah Bowens. And you can say what you will about that play from Jayden Gibson. Sure, it was a walk-on that he beat, but to see a guy who's 6'5" run past somebody like that, walk-on or not, that lends a lot of optimism that Jayden Gibson could be a guy that has somewhat of a role in this Oklahoma passing attack come the fall, because he can move. For somebody that size, he can really move. And so maybe he's not just the type of guy that you bring in on package plays when you're in the red zone and you need a jump ball threat. If Jayden Gibson can assemble the complete package, become a complete wide receiver by the time he leaves the University of Oklahoma, he's got a legitimate chance to be one of the greatest wideouts this program has ever seen, because physically, it is all there. How about some love for a guy in the trenches, Mckade Mettauer, the Cal transfer, whom I've said from the get-go is probably going to be your starting left guard when the season opens this fall. I was really impressed by what I saw from him Saturday, and obviously you can't quantify an offensive lineman's impact the way you can quantify a wide receiver's impact or a running back's impact, etc. But I love Mettauer's drive. I love his punch. You can tell he's a guy that's played a lot of football, and he has. He was a 3-year starter for the Golden Bears out in Berkeley. I'm even more convinced now that he's solidly penciled in as one of your 5 starters on the offensive line. At times, he can be dominant. Well, I guess I got to loop Captain America and the Winter Soldier in together. Both Ethan Downs and Danny Stutzman looked really, really impressive this past weekend. Stutzman tied for the team lead in tackles with 5. Downs wasn't far behind with 4. Both these dudes just have motors, man, ridiculous motors. Stutzman arguably had more to gain from Brent Venables being named head coach than anybody else on this roster because he's exactly the type of linebacker from which Venables has been able to squeeze the best football over the years. And you can already tell his game has taken a step up. He's flying sideline to sideline with ease. We know he's a hard hitter. We know he's unafraid to lay his body on the line. Stutzman's the type of guy that could legitimately explode in his second year in Norman under the tutelage of Venables. And as far as Downs, man, the dude just gets places. We typically use the term motor in reference to linebackers more so than any other position. But from his defensive end spot, Downs gets around as well as anybody on the field. And I think what I love most about the way he plays is it's 100% effort on every snap. It's like that's all he knows. Looping back around to the linebacker core, Ted Roof's son, TD Roof. I mean, he'd need lifts in his shoes to get to 6 feet tall, but he can get around. We've harped on it so much on this YouTube channel, on OUinsider.com VIP, just how much experience matters in Brent Venables' defensive scheme. TD Roof is a guy that has as much experience as anybody on this roster. He's entering his 6th year of college football. And so does he have the same physical ceiling as some of the other linebackers on Oklahoma's roster? No. But from a cerebral standpoint, he's got an edge. Another guy that's played a lot of ball at the linebacker position is Dashaun White, the 5th-year senior. He welcomed Jovantae Barnes to the collegiate game with a bang and a thud on Saturday. Barnes tried to bounce it outside on his first carry, and Dashaun White said, "No, sir," and laid a decleater on him. I have the same feeling about White as I do about Roof. If you're looking for the most physically gifted linebackers in that room for Oklahoma, that list probably starts and ends with some combination of Danny Stutzman, David Ugwebu, and Jaron Kanak. But Roof and White, by virtue of their experience and their ability to grasp their role and execute it, they have the opportunity to see a lot of snaps this year. It's also a prove-it year for the both of them, because it'll be their last year of college football. It's now or never. The last shout-out I want to give on the defensive side goes to Marcus Stripling, who was an absolute menace on Saturday. 4 tackles, a pair of sacks. It was like he was in the backfield every other play. I think Strip's skills have been severely overlooked and overshadowed the last few seasons by Nik Bonitto. And to a certain extent, deservedly so. Nik Bonitto is one of the best edge rushers that the collegiate game has seen in recent memory. But when Strip's been on the field, he's been outstanding at times, and he's made some really disruptive plays over the course of his career in Norman. This is a guy that, understandably, had one foot out the door at the end of last season because of the way he'd been used and or misused by Alex Grinch. Now he's got a second lease on life in Brent Venables' scheme. The physical tools, the innate ability to get after the quarterback, those have always been there for Strip. He's simply just needed more of an opportunity to showcase his talent. He's going to have that this year under Venables. He's going to be racing some pretty talented rushers to get to the quarterback, including Ethan Downs and Reggie Grimes and Jonah Laulu. But I'd say Marcus Stripling has as good a chance as anyone to lead this team in sacks come the fall. So that's a wrap. 5 standouts on either side of the ball that really stuck out to me at Oklahoma's spring game Saturday. Hey, it's NFL draft week, which means there's going to be plenty of content coming your way at OUinsider.com and on this channel. Obviously, in addition to the regular team and recruiting information that we bring you on the site and on the channel, there's going to be plenty of NFL draft coverage throughout the course of the week as guys like Perion Winfrey, Nik Bonitto, Isaiah Thomas, and Brian Asamoah find out whom they're going to be suiting up for at the next level. Go ahead and join today if you're not already a VIP over on OUinsider.com on the 24/7 Sports Network. It is well worth the monthly subscription fee. You can get a 7-day free trial right now or your first month of membership for just $1. That's it for this episode of the Oklahoma Drill. I'm Parker Thune. I'll see you next time.